The Coming of the Elves to Middle-earth, the Children of Ilúvatar. This is part 5 of I Read the Silmarillion So You Don't Have To. A very short overview of the Silmarillion, chapter by chapter. Before the first sunrise, before the moon had ever graced the sky, Middle-earth lay in darkness. Far in the west, the Valar had made their home in Aman. But across the sea, Melkor, greatest of the Ainur, spread shadow and corruption. From his stronghold Utumno he poured his hatred into the world. Then it happened. By the shores of Cuiviénen, under starlight, the firstborn awoke. The elves. They were beautiful, radiant, and new. Ilúvatar's children, stepping into the world for the first time. But Melkor was watching, and he was afraid. He sent his creatures to capture and corrupt them, twisting them into the first orcs or worse, but the Valar would not let this evil stand. For the first time in ages, they marched to war. They unleashed their power upon Melkor in what became known as the Battle of the Powers. The earth itself cracked, the sky shook, mountains rose and fell. At last Melkor was defeated. Bound in chains, he was dragged to Valinor and cast into the halls of Mandos for 3 ages. Utumno was destroyed, but not all of Melkor's servants were vanquished. One of his most faithful, Sauron, fled to the north and fortified Angband, preparing for a darker future. Yet for now, a fragile peace came upon Middle-earth, and the elves were summoned westward to dwell among the Valar. A choice lay before them, a journey that would shape destinies, divide kindreds, and echo through all the ages to come. Thus began the great elven journey, and the long tale of light and shadow that would define the First Age. This was just the beginning of the elves' story, and Melkor's evil was far from ended. Subscribe and join us as we walk deeper into the world of Tolkien's legendarium. You will soon be a true Tolkien scholar. After the defeat and imprisonment of Melkor, the Valar invited the elves to come dwell in the peace and light of Valinor. But not all accepted. The elves can be basically divided into 2 groups, the Eldar and the Avari. The Eldar, people of the stars. These were the elves who accepted the summons of the Valar and began the great journey westward. The Avari, the unwilling. These elves refused the call entirely and remained in the eastern lands of Middle-earth. They became scattered and less known, and many never saw the light of Valinor. Even among the Eldar who began the journey to Aman, not all completed it. The hardships of the road, the fear of the unknown, and Melkor's lingering influence led to further partings. The Eldar can be divvied into the following groups. The Vanyar, the fair and faithful, whose leader was Ingwe, who became the High King of all elves. The Vanyar were tall, golden-haired and deeply devoted to the Valar. They followed Orome swiftly and settled in Valinor. They are considered the noblest of the elves and were closest to the light of the 2 trees. Next, there is the Noldor, the wise and proud their leader, Finwë, a deep thinker and noble ruler. The Noldor were lovers of craft, law and language, curious and ambitious. They reached Valinor and became mighty in skill and knowledge, but their pride would one day lead to tragedy, for it was from the Noldor that Fëanor, creator of the Silmarils, was born. Next, the Teleri, the largest and most hesitant host. Their leader was Elwë, later known as Thingol, brother of Olva. The Teleri were patient, musical, and more connected to the natural world. Many were slow to move west and lingered long along the way. The Teleri were divided more than any other group, subgroups of the Teleri. The Nandor, those who turned aside early in the journey and settled in the lands along the Anduin River. Woodland elves who became reclusive and merged with nature. The Sindar, led by Elwë Thingol, who fell in love with the Maia Melian and stayed behind in Beleriand. They became the Grey Elves, ruling over the forests and coasts of Middle-earth. Their kingdom became Doriath, the heart of elven power in Beleriand. The Falmari, those Teleri who completed the journey to Valinor, led by Olwë, Elwë's brother. They became the Sea Elves, dwelling in the coastal city of Alqualond, and were renowned for their ships and singing. The Elves were ultimately divided by their relationship to the light of the 2 trees in Valinor, Calaquendi, Elves of the Light. These include the Vanyar, Noldor and the Teleri, who reached Aman. They saw the light of the two trees and were forever changed by it. Morikendi, Elves of the Darkness. These elves never reached Valinor or never saw its light, either by choice or fate. They include the Avari, the Nandor, and even the Sindar, though the Sindar were nobler and wiser than most. Thanks for watching. Please see chapters 1 to 4.